the cycle doesn't make women weaker. It's not about that. It's just about noticing what your particular cycle is, what you're doing in your particular cycle, what that looks like for you, talking about it, not being ashamed of it, and then just moving in a way that is serving your body and your mind, because it affects the mind also. So
Nice.
I think that has been a really powerful thing. And all 3 times I tore my ACL, I was on my period. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Fascinating. And that's a thing. And so like knowing about that, that's just not stuff that's often talked about. And I think if we can empower women and girls, if we can empower girls to be like, yes, I have my period, I'm on my cycle, this is a big deal and I am proud of it, and it's very cool. And it, like, even I talk to my boys about it all the time, and we have discussions like, this is what's going on in a woman's cycle, this is how she might be feeling. And I think it's, if we can empower women in their bodies and empower other people around to just be educated, because I'm still educating myself. There's still stuff where I'm like, I probably should know that by now. Should is the wrong word. I wish that I knew it by now. You know what I mean? So it's just stuff like that, empowering, embracing where I'm at, and you can do it. You can still hike 14ers when you're on your period. May not feel great, but you can do it. So there's that.
Nice. Good stuff. Hillary, I saw you nodding your head. What are you thinking?
Well, I was just, when I think about women and training, just from my perspective, being a mom and friends with other moms, very often it's care of our bodies and intention behind exercise is what gets put last, because busy taking care of kids or busy with your own job, and so I guess, like, when I think about coaching and I think about coaching women, I want to help them find a way to make movement a priority. And it doesn't mean that every woman has to lift heavy weights, or that every woman has to run 100 miles, but there is a form of movement that will bring you peace, it will bring you energy, and it's about finding where that is for each person. Like, where can it fit into family life? Where can it fit into work life? And yeah, maybe it's not training for 100, but maybe it's starting to, do workouts in your own home when you've got like 15 minutes here or there. So because back to movement just being empowerment, to me, those two things are the same, so much strength and this feeling of accomplishment comes from movement. And so I think helping women find what that is for them is part of what's important to me as a coach.
Nice, Hillary. So good. The question that comes to mind for me is how do we help women get over mom guilt, kind of what you referred to. I don't know if that's my term or if people say that, but it's that feeling of and I'm guessing here because I've never felt it. Again, I've spent a lot of days at home, the semi-stay-at-home parent role, but never, ever have I felt like, oh, I feel bad about going out for my run or my ride or whatever. Cause I don't know if it's just me or if it's because I'm a man or because I just know that I always feel better. And then that makes me a better parent and professional. But I know that for many women, especially, there's that sense of, like you said, Hillary, guilt of okay, if I go out and I do the thing for me, whether that's strength training or running or biking, or, maybe it's just self-care in the form of a walk or, meditating or whatever it may be. A lot of women feel guilty about that because it's time that's not with the child. What do you think? How do we help people move past that, or should we?
Well, I think I would ask that person, the person that's having a hard, like feeling a lot of guilt, is I would say, like, maybe let's just work on journaling, and let's journal your emotions on a day when you decided not to get in the workout or the walk because you felt like the best thing to do was to just be present, the whole day with your kids or your family or whatever, and just journal, like, what's going on in your mind, how did you feel, what were your energy levels like? And then I would just say, let's just try it. Let's try a day where you took like 15-20 minutes for a walk, and then journal your emotions and your feelings and your energy levels. And did you find that one was better? Did you find that maybe just that little bit of time outside gave you energy for the rest of the day? Or did you find that, you were able to sort your brain out during that activity, and then you were better for your kids? So I would just say, let's try it, and let's try it in little pieces. It doesn't have to be an hour of movement, it could just be 10-15 minutes of movement, and then let's take notes, and let's pay attention to what's happening between those two different days.
Yeah, it looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, Travis, relating it or framing it as self-care. I think it's really hard especially the women that I interact with, coaching or training, to be okay doing self-care. And one thing that's taken me a while to get comfortable with is modeling for the boys that it's okay, modeling for my boys that it's okay to take care of yourself. This is good. And like you had said, it benefits all of us when I'm in a better place. And movement for me is mental health. Like I can heal, I can process. Even if I take a 10-minute lap outside and just take deep breaths, or sit out front for 5 minutes and get sun on my face, like that, and it just depends, life circumstances. There are lots, if you're working full-time or working 2 jobs, or you have 5 kids or whatever, trying to model for your kids that it is important for you to take care of yourself so you are better able to take care of your kids, and that's okay. And so there are times like where I'll be riding my trainer and one of the boys will walk up and be like, that's when the questions typically start, and they're asking for help with something. I'm like, this is my time, I need it. And it took me a while to get there, because I did have the guilt at the beginning, but I'm like, no, I want them to understand that this is my time, and my time is valuable, and my body is valuable, and my mind is valuable. And I want them to also think that for themselves. So modeling it, especially if I'm preaching it, like wanting to show, yeah, this is important and this is good. And like Hillary said, it doesn't have to be a long time. Start with small. And then just kind of making that mental habit and practice, like an intention. I'm doing this because this is important for me. I'm doing this because it's important for my kids, my family, etc. Because I agree with you, Travis, and in that it is, it helps. It just helps settle, calm, refocus, refill.
Nice, good stuff. Caitlin, what do you think? Coaching women training, what are your thoughts?
Kind of like what Becca said, like I actually started my period the day of White Rim. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, it seems like for most of the women that I have coached, like the day of is when they have like a really phenomenal performance. But like I said, it's various to every single woman. It's all individual. Mm-hmm. And I think when it comes to coaching women, or, you're talking to a female friend and they're looking at a coach, they need to be able to be open and comfortable about talking to that, that extent. If they're talking to a coach and the coach just brushes off what's going on, it's not the right person for them. Being able to say, hey, I felt like junk today. I'm at this stage in my cycle. That is so important. And being able to sit and acknowledge that, and then having coaching, giving feedback saying, okay, I think we need to rest. That's so important. And so I think for any female out there, like, you want a coach that's going to acknowledge what's happening inside your body as well as other things around you, because stress is stress. And that's the biggest thing that I can say. Like, you can't just run and run and run. Running is not just like the sole stressor on your body. There's emotional stress, there's physical stress, there's other types of stressors out there. And what happens during our cycle is another big stressor. Multiple things are happening. And so I think having a coach that understands that, and that it's not a weakness, it's actually a power that we have as women, that's something that should be important when you're considering a coach. And to have a coach actually understand that, even if they are male, which I have a male coach and he understands that really well. And that's a really important thing to have.
Nice. Man, you guys are pros. I think I want all three of you to coach me at once. Although that might be,
I like Becca's dance.
that might be too much stress, because you're totally right about all that, Caitlin. And yeah, God, there's so much good stuff there. You know, the family balance stuff. I mean, I think for anyone who is, you know, who's in it with the family, whether that's a couple or a couple with kids, or, you know, a couple with kids where one or both of the people are trying to, you know, go at something big in addition to work and family. You got your athletics, or, you know, whatever else you want to do. It's hard. And I know from my own experience, a lot of times it is just a total shit show. And I've come to terms with the fact that, like, I have to be okay with that. And in fact, it's good training for the race itself, because, you know, when things go to shit in the race, like, you're used to it. You think your way through, and that's where maybe that mom power or dad power comes from, in my opinion. And I also think, you know, no matter which spouse you are, kind of that value of the self-care is so important, you know, realizing, okay, when I take care of myself, I'm able to show up better as a parent and a spouse. And when my spouse gets what he or she needs, he or she is also able to better show up. And that makes us all better. And hopefully we can exemplify that to our kids, you know, to help them regulate themselves, giving themselves what they need, but also just co-regulating with them. And Caitlin, I would agree, as you know, coming from this perspective of a male coach, these things are so important for anyone, you know, any guy out there who either works with women, you know, in a coaching sense or another professional sense, or who lives with or loves women, which is probably, you know, the majority of the men. I mean, I have a wife, I have a daughter. These things, like you said, Becca, about the knowing about the menstrual cycle, that's very important. And that, for me, when I first read the book Roar, which I highly recommend to anyone who's listening, you know, it kind of talks just about that subject of the female cycle. How does it impact the body, the different phases of it? One question I had to any or all of you, my sort of takeaway from the Roar book, if I was to sum it up, and hopefully I'm summing it up correctly, is the idea that sort of like at the beginning of the cycle is often when a woman's body might be most ready, especially for high-end exercise. Because I sort of think about it as like the body it's not preparing for this extra strain of potentially being pregnant. So it has more, you know, stuff, whether that's hormones, energy, et cetera, to put in to the exercise output. And then later in the cycle, you know, in other words, furthest from the start of bleeding is when the body is preparing to potentially get pregnant, and it's putting sort of all this energy there. And maybe, especially for high-end exercise, there might just be less in the tank, or sort of feel like there's less in the tank, and that maybe it's less of an impact for endurance exercise, you know, the longer, slower stuff. What do you think? Is that a good thesis? And is that true based on your own experience, or does it vary from woman to woman? I mean, I have never experienced this, and I don't think I will.
I think you spoke it well compared for what I have experienced.